Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look back at the Bluegrass Stakes for the 2020 Kentucky Derby Prep Recap Series. We break from the gate. There is an exceptional filly in this race, Swiss Skydiver, the number 7, and Swiss Skydiver is going to be close to this pace early. You see from the inside, Shivaree, not surprisingly, the Florida Derby runner-up's going to show some speed. Swiss Skydiver, the 7, is up close, and Art Collector, the 3, Mike. We know one of his great assets is his tactical speed. He might be the now horse in this division, and he got right up close to the pace.
Yeah, he was stepping up here off of 3 straight impressive wins. He got right up close. Swiss Skydivers to his outside, and she's going to go on and take over the lead here on the backstretch. The most interesting thing about the race, Dan, is in the 1-2 finishers, they both run really well in here, but they're going to sort of hook it up coming to the stretch, and nobody really makes any kind of serious run at them.
Rushy, who was taking a little bit of money coming off a third-place finish in the Santa Anita Derby. He's 5 wide right now on the outside in those red silks. He's trying to get into the race, and he eventually will clunk up to finish third, while no match for the top 2. Swiss Skydiver was aggressively ridden, going a good pace against the boys. She's going to put Shivaree away, and she's going to be immediately confronted by Art Collector. And for a brief second, Mike, it looks like Rushy's going to run, and then these top 2 just run away from Rushy.
Yeah, they hook it up right now. Our Collector's going to come up alongside the winner. They're going to, get together here coming to the stretch. Rushy just can't continue his run. He made actually a pretty good one all the way around the turn, but he can't continue it, Dan. He's the horse that you probably want to watch from now too, Rushy, because right now he's all done. He is not running anymore. He is going to trudge home here the last 3/16 of a mile, and nobody is going to get by this horse for third. And that just tells you that nobody closed in this race at all. That's not to take anything away from the 1-2 finishers, Dan, but there was no closing going on.
Swiss Skydiver tried hard till about the 16th pole. Art Collector then put her away. We saw Art Collector hop back to his left lead. That's something he does in his races. I'm not necessarily concerned about it. Let's look at Art Collector moving forward, Mike. This horse has a beautiful pedigree. He's by Bernardini. His dam was a long-distance and long-winded turf horse. 1.25 miles should not be an issue. He has winning experience at Churchill Downs. He has great tactical speed, and he has fast races. This race, a 103 Beyer speed figure, his second consecutive triple-digit Beyer. You have to consider this horse right now a major contender for the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, you do. He's one of the horses, and there are a couple of them this year, but he's one of the ones who, benefited more than anybody else from the Derby being postponed to run in September, because if they had run it on its normal schedule, he would not have been in the race. But he's going to be in it now, and he's going to be a major player in it as well, because this horse has gotten good rapidly this year.
As for Swiss Skydiver, I understand they took a chance against the boys in here. Now it looks like they will go back to running against the fillies. A race like the Alabama is a bit logical, although if you're concerned about her ability to get 1.25 miles, that might be an issue. I still think the Kentucky Oaks is very much on their agenda.
Yeah, as it should be. She's one of the better 3-year-old fillies in the country right now. The horse that she handled easily 2 starts back in the Santa Anita Oaks Speech just came back with a huge win at Keeneland over the weekend. So Swiss Skydiver, she's one of the best 3-year-old fillies in the country.
After a couple of good races for Rushy, he was just sort of overwhelmed by the competition here. He made his run, and he was almost stunned, it seemed, when they ran away from him. He was flailing away on his left lead. He was very lucky to hold on for third. But I think the point that you made is not about Rushy, but about the horses that were chasing Rushy and couldn't run Rushy down for third, most notably Enforceable and a couple of other horses in this race. Was it a situation where, it's an indictment on those horses that they couldn't get to an exhausted Rushy in the last 1/8 of a mile, or did you think speed was doing well on this track?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something that I will consider going forward, just that, nobody got by him late, because you could see that he was all done, when they got into the upper stretch there. As far as Enforceable goes, the horse that finished, you just missed getting up for third. I mean, he was off a layoff there, Dan. He's got a terrible running style because he just has no speed at all, but he actually was trying to make a run into the race. I didn't think he ran terribly in this race. The question is, where do you go with him from here? Because his running style is just so bad, and he's got to take a step forward somewhere down the line.
I thought Basin was cold on the tote board at 10-1, considering the quality of competition he was in against at Oaklawn Park. I think you and I have always been concerned about his ability at longer distances, and I would not be surprised if Steve Asmussen views this as a cutback candidate, a horse that will be sprinting in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me they almost have to consider that for him. This is a horse who won the Grade 1 Hopeful at 7 furlongs as a 2-year-old. His first 3 starts this year were fine, but it didn't, seem like he really wanted to go that far. And that was a point that was maybe driven home on Saturday because he had nothing in this race.
Do you feel the same way about Shivaree? Yes, his coming out party came when a runner-up to Tiz the Law at a giant price in the Florida Derby, but he's a multiple stakes winning sprinter, and I just think his speed is well suited for the 7 furlong distance.
Yeah, got to cut this horse back. He's another horse. He's run, okay going longer a couple of times, but I think he's a much better sprinter.
Can attachment rate be given somewhat of a mulligan looking at this race and saying he's okay, maybe he's not a Grade 1 Kentucky Derby type, but there's something here where there's a race for him. It doesn't have to be a major race, but it's a race where he can probably win a graded stake at a middle distance down the road, maybe as a 4-year-old.
Yeah, I'd like to see him cut back as well, Dan. He didn't break great in this race, but after that, he was given a pretty good trip by Talamo, I thought, and he just couldn't really get involved. He's a horse who I had questions about, getting the 9 furlongs on the way in and coming out. That sort of opinion was reinforced. I want this horse cut back to a shorter distance.
If you didn't believe in Art Collector before the Bluegrass, you probably should believe in him now. He's a major Kentucky Derby threat. The gallant filly Swiss Skydiver lost nothing in defeat. And we'll see if some of these other horses turn back in distance and make hay. I think there are some good runners in the Bluegrass, but they were dominated by the top 2 finishers on Saturday.